Mackayla. Welcome to the Soundtrack of Our Lives podcast. We're going to jump right in with the two hardest questions of all. Who are you and what have you been up to recently?
I'm Parker from the Messenger Birds, and we just put out a new single called Fake Lives, and we've got an EP coming out on June 13th. And that's pretty much what I've been up to.
That's very exciting stuff.
Hard question to answer.
Yeah, because there's so much you could say.
I know. I could have gone into the whole slew of things, but I'll just keep it simple.
Yeah, so your guys' new EP, so exciting. What can you share about that?
Well, it is 4 tracks. We recorded it at Rust Belt Studios in Royal Oak, Michigan, with our good friend Steve Lehane. He's been our longtime collaborator, producer, um, partner in crime, troublemaker. When we're out in public together, it's usually it doesn't end well. But um, yeah, that's where we've recorded our last couple albums, and we it's pretty close, which is convenient for us, and it always gets a great sound out of that studio. And Steve is just the best in the biz at that. He doesn't get as much recognition as he deserves. That he's done some stuff with like Bob Ezrin and Alice Cooper. He's worked with Black Dahlia Murder,
Wow.
um, Joanne Shaw Taylor, some other people, but and our buddy Sammy Bowler as well. But yeah, he's great. The EP is called Grammy Award-winning album. It's all a blur. Um, Very long title that makes no sense. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Has anyone thought that it won a Grammy?
So far, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
people are kind of aware that that's not what that means. But when we announced it, I did get Instagram DM from somebody we know being like, so wait, how does this thing win a Grammy before it's out? And I said, well, that's the joke, bud. That's the um, there's a lot going on with that title, but mainly it just kind of was one of those things where Chris and I were talking, and I was like, hey, I have either the dumbest or the best idea um, I think I've ever had for a title of an album. And here it is. And, I don't think anybody's ever called an album, Grammy Award-winning album. So we just kind of thought that was funny and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, it can both be the best and weirdest, worst idea altogether.
Right. It could be both at the same time. They're
Yeah,
they're not mutually exclusive.
yeah. So, how did you choose the four songs that are on it?
Um, well, so it's for us, it's never really been like we don't write a large collection of songs and then pick from them usually.
Hmm.
It's more like we have a bunch of running ideas, and the ones that we actually finish are the ones that we um it's hard because it's not like we pick and choose. It's sort of just the
Hmm.
ones that feel like they're working the
Yeah.
best. Those are the ones that we end up seeing through, and then once we've got like one or two or three done, we start kind of seeing the full picture of like what other ideas that we've been
Hmm.
tinkering with that sort of fit with the other ones. So, I know some artists will just write like 30 songs and then pick the best 12 or whatever. But we've never been like that. We just kind of we work on the ones that feel like they're working the best or that we
Hmm.
like the most, and then kind of save the other ones for later. So like it's for us, it's more like a working collection of like half finished ideas that just sit in a box for a while until we figure out what to do with them.
So do you come in with what you want the album to be about before you finish the songs, or how does that work?
No, I think that kind of happens as we do it.
Hmm.
And, sometimes I don't even figure out what the album's about until after I've finished writing it. Like I think that you can take away so many meanings from a song or from an album and people misinterpret lyrics all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes like it's it's kind of like never meet your heroes in a way like
Right.
you don't really want to know the truth or like the the story is better than what the truth actually is
Hmm.
half the time. um so like I kind of like to leave things a little more open-ended because some of the songs, if I said like this is exactly what it was about or like this is what the intention originally
Hmm.
was, um, people would be like, oh, well, I thought it was this. So like I like to let people kind of figure out for themselves what it means to them, and then there's always a handful of direct references to stuff that it's like, yeah, that's obviously what that is, but
Hmm.
even still, you can make something mean kind of anything you want, right? So
Yeah.
um that's sort of where I go with that. Like I don't ever have a I might have an idea of like um maybe a theme I want to explore, but
Hmm.
I never have a really clear picture of like what I want a whole song or a whole album to be about until much later.
Hmm. That makes sense.
It almost kind of figures itself out if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you leave it open ended because then it allows people to, as you said, put their own interpretation on it and kind of
Right.
make the song their own in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I've listened to plenty of interviews with people talking about what a song is about and versus like what people have interpreted to mean,
Hmm.
and it's like stark contrast probably 85% of the time.
Right. It's always so interesting that songs or just maybe art in general can be interpreted so differently by people.
Yeah. The one of the ones that just jumped in my head, like I was listening to Connor Oberst on a podcast talking about a song from I don't know how familiar you are with Bright Eyes, but they're just longtime favorite band of mine. Um, Connor was talking about the song, what was it? Soul Singer in a Session Band,
Okay.
and how like there's this line that somebody had like criticized as being something or meaning something, and then he told the actual story of where it came from, and it was like basically his point was like I know what I mean, but like everyone else doesn't necessarily know what I mean. So like
Right.
whatever, you can think what you want about what it means, but like it's for you to decide and for me to know, and that's what that is.
And then there's also a level of like intrigue and secrecy for people. That's kind of
Right.
interesting.
Right. I think that and I'm personally like I'm a pretty private person. I don't like to spend a whole lot of time on the internet, sharing like my personal life with the world.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the same applies for like when we've written songs, like the real intimate personal story behind something is never usually the one that gets shared directly
Right.
with anyone. That's for us to keep. And we'll share parts of it. The stuff that's important for us to share and for everyone to know about, but um, I think the rest I like to leave, like I said, up to interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, you could also make up an entirely different story or new story and nobody would know.
Yeah, no one would ever know.
Can make up an entire different meaning.
Yeah, I think that every song probably could mean about 20 different things at the same time. It just depends
Hmm.
on how you see it, and whatever your own personal experience or worldview is what sort of implicates that.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear everyone's different take on music and art.
Right. Yeah. I mean, literally everything means everything, and everything means nothing, and everything in between.
Right. So you mentioned Bright Eyes being one of your favorite bands. What other influences do you have?
Uh, Probably too many to list. I would say like if we're talking like all time, like I've been listening to it since I was a teenager and never really stopped. I would say uh, Bright Eyes, Queens of the Stone Age, The Strokes, um, Nine Inch Nails. There's probably a handful of others, but
Hmm.
like, there's certain bands like you listen to in that era, and then
Yeah.
you sort of grow out of the era, and you're like, ah, it's like it's nostalgic, but I don't really care for it anymore. And then
Hmm.
certain stuff that just stays with you forever. So those ones have stayed with me forever, and like, their releases I've grown with, or like I'll come back to and appreciate it in a different way later.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's, bands I'm listening to right now. So there's like, um, I I would say probably the top bands I listened to recently are Idols. I've been into that new Viagra Boys album. Mannequin Pussy is great. They're one of the best out there right now. Um, who else? Turnstile. And they're all like putting out new records right now too, so it's all fresh. But yeah, that's some of the best ones that I've been jamming lately.
Yeah, that's some good influences.
I'm all over the map. I pretty much just don't listen to like modern country music.
Which is interesting because that I think is one of the top in the country.
Yeah, and that's the one I listen to the least.
And it's the most popular one that exists, which is interesting.
Yeah, and nothing against it. It's just not
Yeah.
my thing.
I guess I never realized how popular country music was for a long time.
Isn't that funny? Like you could have something that the whole world knows about, but it's still kind of like a mystery to you. So
Hmm.
like everybody sort of lives in their own little pocket, and doesn't matter how popular something is, like if you don't get exposed to it, or like you don't find it or seek it out for yourself, you never really discover it.
Right. That yeah, that is kind of crazy.
So everybody's out at faster horses and whatever other country fests are. I mean, there's a million of them,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I've got zero experience with any of that, and it's just none of it's really on my radar.
Yeah, which is fine. You don't have to like every kind of music. That's why there's so many kinds,
Yeah.
which is nice. There's a lot of different influences.
Yeah, there's something out there for everybody.
Yeah. So would you say that all of those influences were on this album, this EP as well, or were there ones that kind of showed up more than others?
That's a good question. I mean, this EP, I would say for sure is more heavily synth driven than anything else, than
Hmm.
or at least than our previous records were. Like if you go to our first LP, that was, very much a guitar and drums rock record with other stuff sprinkled in. Our second LP was a little bit more experimental, with, blending genres and sort of immersing in a little bit of both synth guitar world, and then this one is almost a little bit more in the other direction.
Hmm.
Um, Still, I would consider it like a rock or an alt rock record, but it definitely like the catalyst for a lot of the music that was written started from a synthesizer,
Hmm.
as opposed to starting on a guitar, or starting with like, me and Chris jamming something. Um, so like everything has sort of come together in a slightly different way. We never do something the same way twice, and it kind of keeps it fresh for us. and
Yeah.
and um, yeah, the thing that I hate the most is when something sounds formulaic. So I think that really helps with that too. Um, I'd hate to uh, repeat ourselves so much that it just sounds like we're putting out the same record all the time.
Hmm.
there's going to be a degree of repetition no matter what, because
Right.
we're the variable that never changes is it's still the two of us. But
Hmm.
um, I'd like to think that we do a fairly good job of not like copying ourselves. You know, there's some growth there. But in terms of musical artists that influence the record, it's probably always a little bit of a mix of all of that.
Hmm.
I'm like I said, I'm always listening to Bright Eyes, Queens, Nine Inch Nails, all those bands. And so that's just kind of stuff that's always floating around in my head. And so a lot of that can just sort of be unconsciously influencing stuff. And then um I should mention Radiohead too. That's another one. But um, yeah, I mean, I don't think that like there wasn't anything I was listening to at the time or that I remember
Hmm.
that was like informing my style of writing when I was coming up with any ideas. It just sort of was like messing around with I had just gotten this Moog Sub 37 synth and like was just really learning how to use it. And anytime you get like a new tool or instrument or pedal or whatever, like it kind of tends to just breed pure creation mode
Hmm.
because you're in learning mode and you're trying to figure this out and like you're just accidentally stumbling on stuff that you didn't intend to make. So that sort of natural curiosity just like leads you to stuff that um, sounds cool.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably more responsible than anything for what this record sounds like.
Yeah. So if you hadn't bought in this synth, do you think it wouldn't be as heavily pronounced in this EP?
Maybe not. I mean, because like we use Moog and we use synthesizers on both of the previous records. It's just that
Hmm.
like I it wasn't my synth that I had at my
Right.
house to mess around with. That was just something that we had access to at the studio, and Steve, our producer, uh, would sort of work with us on just layering in certain things, whether it was arpeggiators or synth bass lines or whatever, just stuff to kind of build the atmosphere.
Hmm.
And when I got this for myself, it just was like, I'm sitting in my basement spending a couple hours just messing around with knobs and like, you hold a note, you twist a knob, see what that does, you twist another knob, see what that does, and then you do them together, see what each combination does, and then, you just stumble on a sound that like you're like, oh, I didn't know I could make that.
Hmm.
So, um, and then that gives you an idea for something else, and that gives you an idea for something else, and it just keeps
Right.
building.
So with each EP, are you going to plan to buy a new instrument to help inspire it?
Well, that would be nice, but I don't think I can afford that.
Yeah. That would be cool
But I
though.
would say every time I do get something new, it's like that some idea is born out of it, whether it's a new guitar pedal or the synthesizer or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Getting something new kind of driving that inspiration.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just that it's like the natural curiosity. You're experimenting with something that you've never explored before, and you just naturally stumble on new things.
Which just makes it more fun and exciting.
Yeah. It's just pure, unadulterated expression.
Yeah. So before I ask the last question, was there anything else that you wanted to mention or talk about today?
Um, Let me think. That's a good question. We have a Detroit release show August 9th at the Loving Touch. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else that we haven't announced to the world yet.
Hmm.
So that's
Okay.
it.
So our last question is, what is the soundtrack of your life?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how to answer that. Um, is that like, do you mean like an album or a song or like
So
a
it's meant to be very open-ended and answered however you want.
Okay.
It's
Uh,
meant to be hard.
yeah, that's a really hard question because it's so open-ended. I don't know where to begin. Um,
I
I
could give
mean,
you some past answers if that helps.
well, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Some people have chosen an album, an artist, particular songs. People have gone the movie soundtrack. Some people have gone with things unrelated to music, like the ocean or their friends and family talking or things like that.
Yeah, well, if we're talking like what my daily life sounds like, it's usually my cat yelling at me to give it food. But and actually surprisingly, she hates when I'm on the phone or on a Zoom, but she's asleep upstairs right now and she hasn't heard me yet. So 'cause usually what happens is she comes down here and she just starts yelling at me until I get off the phone, and if I don't get off the phone, then she'll swat at my leg or bite me. Um so that's a daily occurrence. Um, but I was gonna say, and I couldn't necessarily name a specific movie soundtrack, but I was gonna say it would be something off of like a Trent Reznor uh, uh, or like an Explosions in the Sky type thing, where like it just feels like it's capturing all of your emotions from start to finish through
Hmm.
the course of that soundtrack or that album or whatever. Um, so yeah, Trent Reznor with his ability to cinematically um, uh, capture what's going on visually with the audio. I
Hmm.
think no one's better at that than him.
Such a unique
Um,
skill.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And uh in real life, the soundtrack of my everyday life is just my cat needing things from me.
What's your cat's name?
My cat's name is Jazzy. Um my wife and I got her from the shelter when she was about 4,
Hmm.
and she is 13 and a half now.
Oh, wow.
And she's a handful. She doesn't like to be not the center of attention, but she also doesn't want too much attention at the
Hmm.
wrong time. So she's a real princess. She's a real piece of work.
Love it. So, for all of our listeners who want to stay updated on you guys, hear the EP when it comes out, where can they find you?
So they can find us on pretty much all social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days, um, whatever that alternate universe is. Uh, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever streaming service, Bandcamp, we're on pretty much all of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a nice rest of your day.
Safe